you here. Yes, thanks for joining the Recreation Committee as an associate. First order of business then would be discussion and approval of meeting minutes. Somebody have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
You have a second?
Second,
There you go.
jumped right in.
All right, we got a second. All right, discussion. Any edits? Any comments? I think Melissa did a amazing job.
Speaking of, we should ask who's taking them today.
Right. Get to that. Right, no discussion being heard. We can go around the room and vote on, oh, here you go. Hey, Jenna. Can I ask you a procedural question? Now that we have quorum without elevating an associate, do we then have Laura go back down to being an associate for tonight?
That's okay.
I believe that the rule is once that person is elevated, that they can stay in on the discussion.
Great. Okay.
And if there's a vote, then it would be
Yes.
relevant. I don't think there's any vote anyways, correct? On the agenda?
Just minutes. And then, well, so amplified sound request and temporary. So there's a couple votes, but
All right. Yep, no worries. Yep. They can
Cool.
stay part of the vote. Thank you.
okay.
Get experience.
Okay, so let's go around and all those in favor of approving the minutes. We can go around the room. Mike?
Aye.
I've got voting rights.
Yeah, okay, right. I do this every week, right? Laura?
You have a.
Hey, Melissa?
Yeah.
Yes.
And yes, so 6-0. Think, right? Am I doing the math right now?
Yes,
All
6-0.
right. Okay, so the first order of business after that, public comment. So, yes.
I'm Judy Coleman, 18 Milton Road. And I just want to thank the rec department for providing the benches for the Memorial Park courts. 4 beautiful benches are there now. Everybody was thrilled to see them. They're comfortable. They look good. Place to sit down to change your shoes, to take the wrestling games. It was really excellent. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I also want to thank you for supporting our small little ultimate frisbee group on Fridays. You continue to
do.
support that, and you supported it more with Kevin now giving a class for the kids doing summer. So that was really great.
Thank you guys for doing what you do. Without you guys, we can't do a lot of stuff. So thank you guys as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. That was great. Anybody else? Angela, go ahead.
Angela Benda, Orchard Park Drive. I want to address the issue. I think you spoke about it at the last meeting about money from Burbank Ice Funds going directly to Recreation Committee in some form. Carl McFadden spoke. He said he went to the select board. They were talking about something else. They didn't really they didn't discuss it at all. And then he came here and he talked about it with you. And I just want to say, I think that would be really an inappropriate thing for that money to go directly to the Recreation Committee. And I can mail this to you, but I have the 2011 annual town meeting report on the warrant. And the Burbank Ice Arena leases money. And in Article 13, which was asked for town meeting approved, it says with the net income from the rink operations after deducting operational maintenance and repair costs and expenses, the funding of a cash reserve to cover capital replacement costs, the remainder would be paid to the town of Reading, Massachusetts as a rental payment. So it is a rental payment. In the first years, there was a lot of money that went to Reading's contribution for the YMCA. That was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then in the next few years, it was payment in lieu of taxes for the land lease, and then it has been a direct payment to the town. The money goes into a special account now. It doesn't go into free cash or something. So there is a way to keep track of what is being used. But funding is for different projects is at the discretion of town meeting. Select board works with FinCom, but FinCom makes the recommendations, and that money really needs to be at the discretion of the town meeting. It really isn't like $100,000 to just recreation to decide how it goes. That is what the capital projects are there for. No other committee has this type of money at the discretion. I spoke to two FinCom members about this, and when I said, this is going back and forth between the select board when they're talking about the lease and rec committee. I just want to bounce it off you. What do you think? And when I said that, I said, I didn't tell them what I was thinking. And their first, both of them said, well, one of them said, money's not fungible. And they both said, well, if they get $100,000 for Burbank, that means that they're not going to be asking town meeting for money, or we would deduct $100,000 from the capital plan. And I said, well, I don't know that that's the intention. I think that they would think that like this is extra money. And they both sort of said, well, no, there's not extra money, there's money. And if they get money through one source, then they wouldn't get it through the other. And I think that we need to think of the rec committee and the funding in a very holistic sense right now. I think we are just spent $1 million, or we will be spending $1 million for garbage cans out of free cash. FinCom reserves, I heard from one select board member that they are going down because things are costing a lot more. And we all know that our taxes will be going up with Killam. I mean, a 10,000 bill, it's possible that taxes with Killam could go up $1,000. I think that the town has been very supportive of the recreation committee. I think that Birch Meadow, I think that going through it in the way that you ask for money, you could even say, you know what, there's Burbank money, can we spend more? But I really think that it would come back and bite the recreation committee in the ass in the end, because it would sort of feel like a double grab. And when you have so many needs right now, I mean, I know that we have parks and playgrounds that need to be done, and they really do. But we also have a school that hasn't had drinkable water for years. And so I think that, asking for that money to go there, even if it's just going to the select board and saying, we support this, I think it sends the wrong message. I think that these kind of projects really need to be gone through FinCom and town meeting, and they really need to be vetted. And this looks like an end run to me. So I hope that, you let it kind of drop. And if the select board decide to take it up, that's their business. But I don't think it would be the right thing for the recreation committee to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Angela. I'll just make a quick comment just so everybody knows where we are in terms of the status from that. This was brought up to select board. So we made our recommendation last week that the select board look at, or last month, to look at it. There's nothing definitive about it. So it is in the select board's hands to make a decision on how they want to pursue the request from the Burbank Ice Authority to have monies allocated in a certain way.
Did you, I thought it was just a discussion. You didn't actually vote and make a recommendation on it, did you?
We recommended that the select board look at it. Yeah.
You actually recommended that they look at it. Okay.
So, and it ultimately it's up to the select board to make that decision if they want to pursue it. And look at it that way. I agree with you that monies eventually all has to get approved by town meeting, regardless of how it goes. Yeah. So, any other public comment? Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. Did a letter go? Did a letter go to the select board, or did did something actually go to the select board?
I think the only thing that was brought up by Carl McFadden, I believe. I know Melissa had brought it up again on,
Haven't heard anything yet?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, Melissa, so I know that Carl and Melissa were working together on it, so
It was brought up
again,
on-
it's,
was it not brought up on Monday as well too? Melissa had mentioned it. in
Melissa
her
mentioned it.
liaison.
We can mention whatever we want on liaison reports, but we're just making the distinction between it's the select board putting something on their agenda to have a formal discussion, the answer to that would be not yet.
Yeah, and that's when you see it on the agenda here, that was what I'm talking about. We kind of just talked about what we did as well too, and I was just there was no major updates other than it was mentioned on Monday night as well. And I know Carl, when he spoke with us, tied in the school department as well, saying he wanted to allocate some money for special education program, inclusion program. And then he connected us with Tom Wachowski. I spoke with him over a Zoom meeting and he said he'd be in full support of it as well too. So that's the updates I had on that. So you could even scratch it from the agenda at 7:10.
go ahead, Karen.
Karen Janowski, 30 Azalea Circle. I'm speaking as a pickleball player and a Council on Aging member. And I just would like to see what the next steps are for the Recreation Committee in terms of pickleball. Because it's time to be proactive. There's so many people playing pickleball. You should come up to the courts because it's all ages. It's so much fun. We see families out there. We see multi-generations, intergenerational activities. I play with my son and my daughter-in-law. I mean, we play all ages and it's a really awesome activity. But I think it's time to make a decision because the cracks on the court are growing. They're wider and longer, and that impacts the quality of the play. And I know that I had a great conversation with Jenna and Jim last month, and we're really looking forward to Recreation Committee making some sort of step forward about using the Zanny land and using it, because we all agree, everybody, even FinCom has mentioned it, Select Board has mentioned it, you've mentioned it, that Simon's Way is the place. So it seems like it's the time to make a decision to, as the Rec Committee, and then Select Board ultimately has to make a decision, and then we'll see what happens from there. So I'm just wondering what you feel like are the next steps, what the Recreation Committee feels are the next steps. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Jim, again, I'll reiterate what Judy said about the benches. We are ecstatic about having those 4 benches. And everybody is. So thank you for all you're doing, but I do ask, what will you do, especially as a Council on Aging member, because this is a recreational activity that so many 60+ members of our community are participating in. So thank you.
Jim, do you have a update?
So as far as the update I have, I know it was brought up again at the select board meeting right now. They just finished up recalc. I think it just closed and they did recommend that Simon's Way was the spot. And I know there's other processes that have to take place between today and kind of when we make decisions. And I think every meeting we've had, we've continued to say we're in full support of them going there, but we don't want to put the carriage before the horse. So my understanding is we're waiting for the select board to basically kind of say if we could do something with that land.
Right.
Can I just ask?
And if we get that green light from the select board to like, let's fully explore Zanny land and that spot, then I think that I don't want to speak for everybody, but I have not heard anybody say no, that pickleball shouldn't go in Simon's Way. Everybody has said, to your point, everybody has agreed that that is the best spot for it. So I think, yeah, as soon as there's something, a specific parcel that, you know, and I know that, like, I think CPDC had something to say about it, or
CPDC is next, right? Karen, am I wrong?
That was permanent building committee.
So I think we need to back up a little bit because the select board just heard the presentation. And so I just want to be clear, we did hear from Recalc that they recommend Simon's Way. So we just heard it. So they have now formed a building committee for this project. So I think that's the next place that it needs to go.
Yeah.
The building committee is formed.
That's what I said. Yeah. So it's not really, the select board is not looking to make a decision. The community is going to need to make a decision to move forward with this project. And so again, you can't really build a pickleball court without knowing where that project is going to go. So, but it's
Well,
not the select board holding anything up at this point. We just had a presentation.
so So one of my questions on this is, it seems like it's critical to get those courts on the capital plan for FY 25. And I don't really know that process, and how that gets done and when it gets done. But it would be a real tragedy if it doesn't get on the FY 25 capital plan, because town meeting's going to have to approve this and get it done. And the courts are so crowded at Memorial that.
Can I ask Jenna to chime in or Jim on kind of like that part from the recreation departments, if that's the next step?
Sure. So my thought is, I know that we've had meetings with the Reading Pickleball Players Association, and Jim and I also had a meeting with Karen. So I think as staff and as the pickleball community, there's been some discussions like behind the scenes, which is great because we're all communicating and that's what we want, about a location. And it is the location that is currently on the recalc plan, which is the conceptual design. But as Jim just said, there's some question on where the building will go, where it won't go. We seem to think that the parcel of land that the pickleball courts are on right now on the plan would be the best spot. But again, we're just kind of waiting for a direction from the select board on, if this is something that we should pursue now, later. So that's kind of where we're at. And it's up to the board if they want to discuss it further. There is also a private donation. I don't know if Michael wants to speak to that as well, or anyone else in the room that's coming forward. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and I myself would love to see pickleball move to the forefront, because there's been a lot of behind the scenes goodwill by the players and the association to get these funds raised, and they have also indicated that if a location is specified, that they want to move forward and donate even more money to the project. So.
Okay, so I guess, I mean, I'll ask the question, like, what committee needs to say what's next? Because I don't think the recreation committee has the wherewithal to like say, okay, town, move forward with this, with this at this point. Like, we've voiced our support for it again and again. Kate, you have a question?
Yep.
Eric,
So I think,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Jenna.
sorry. Yeah. So I think right now, from what Jim said, that it's going to be going to the permanent building committee to really decide where the location of the building should be. If it should be Simon's Way, if it should be Oakland Road. That hasn't even been determined. Recalc and COA have made their recommendations, but permanent building committee as a whole has not, and neither has the OPM. The OPM's not even on board yet. So I think once that's determined and they say it's Simon's Way and they say it's going to go here, then we could probably move forward as a board and make some type of recommendation. And I think that would probably be within the next couple months. I think the OPM and the permanent building committee will have a decision on the site in a couple months. And Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you're on the squad too.
I'm on the recall committee. So I think that you've characterized the recalc and permanent building committee and I forgot the manager, whatever he's called. That's all in process. The recalc never actually specifies pickleball locations, because that was separate from the recalc. There is a location that would work at Simon's Way and not interfere with any of recalc, regardless of whether it's in the close to the Haverhill Street end or the other end of the parking lot. I mean, where the pickleball courts
It's
are
existing plan,
in the existing plan, where the
which hasn't
pickleball courts are.
been approved by permanent building committee yet.
Right, but where the pickleball courts are is a narrow bit of land, and you really can't put a building there.
Yep.
I don't
No,
think.
I-
So I think they're two separate things. And what I'm concerned about really is that if we have to wait for the permanent building committee to make their decision in November, or December, that we won't be on the capital plan budget for next summer. And if that is the case, this is just, pickleball could happen next summer. We have over 125 in the bank today. We have commitments for much more as soon as we get a piece of land. We're talking about a substantial gift to the town to get these courts built. Estimates of what it would cost to build, it's a particular site, so maybe it costs $400K, $450K, who knows? You know, until you actually do some of the site prep stuff, you don't know. But until we get a location and do some of this stuff and get it on the capital plan, we don't have a project. And we can't do any real planning. We can't get the engineering department in town to help out and really lay out, this is what it's gonna cost. Maybe it'll cost $350K, maybe $250. I don't know. If it's $250, we could probably raise all the money ourselves.
So I'm just gonna,
To get on the capital plan.
Yeah.
And if it's too late, that's a really sad.
Yeah.
Sad thing.
so I'm gonna pause this conversation. I think we've talked about it as part of public comment, but I think we're veering probably a little too askew. Jim, maybe we can offline figure out kind of like a concrete course of action, whatever we can do. And if it is us, then maybe talking to permanent building committee and saying, how do we do this? How do we split these up? Can we split these up? Is that feasible? I don't know, right? I don't have the answer to that, but I think it, as much as we can do, we should do, so.
I agree.
Okay, so, and thank you for your patience. We're going to go to the next item. Oh yeah, sorry. Any other public comment?
Can I just say one thing? They should, you should all go to the financial forums in the fall to get in front of the FinCom and to put it in their ear and start talking about getting capital plans. So if you don't have a place yet, start appearing, especially the financial forum where they're talking about capital plans.
Yeah.
So attend those. Everybody should attend those.
Amplified sound request for Reading Coalition for Prevention and Support and Reading Police Department.
Do we have anyone for that?
All right, okay. So that is
Coming up.
So does everybody have a copy of this?
No,
Okay.
We read it.
All right, I will read it out loud. So this is on,
August 28th.
thank you, August 28th from 5:30 to 6:30, use of sound equipment, speakers, mixers, microphones, in order to make general announcements and a few speeches. Doesn't give any other specifics. Do you know, it's, the purpose of the event is overdose awareness. So my guess is that's just a community information.
Reading Police Department, Erica McNamara, I think.
Okay. Mallet.
I'm sorry, did you say
Where's
on the town common?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Town Common.
Town
They do it every
Town
year.
Common, yeah.
That's what I thought. Move we approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, let's go around the room. Mike?
Aye.
I,
Yes.
Aye. All right. It passes. Fix that thing. Next is the vote on approval of temporary portable lights at Birch Meadow, multi-purpose area, submitted by Reading Youth Football.
Football. As you said, we're looking to place lights, the Birch Meadow fields, multi-purpose field for middle of September, so to middle of November. So we have 170 kids this season, record for us. They practice about 6 to 8 o'clock, and at some point it gets dark early, and having lights just helps that tremendously. about 40% of our kids have first through fourth grade, so asking them to go later and get the turf field or the varsity field once it becomes available to us. It's just tough at that age. So we're seeking approval for lights temporarily. We would use them, say Tuesday and Thursdays, but anyone who plays soccer, et cetera, that's there any other days will have the ability to use them as well.
And how many are there? Two? Is it two?
Two.
Sets.
Are they located? Where would they be located?
I made a little map if you want me to.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great.
This is your favorite part I'm getting.
That's right. You gotta see where they are, where they're facing.
All right, now I just gotta share the screen. We'll get there. I hope now. What do you say? But it's not showing up. Get to share. There we go. Thank you. Share. It makes this bigger too. All right. Okay. I kind of made a quick little map. So it's typically lit pretty much from dusk till 10 o'clock, whether it's high school or our youth rentals, which they get on there about 7:30. And those little triangles that look a little bit yellowish, that's kind of where the light's showing right now. Am I wrong? We get the bleed that goes a little bit towards the street field, but the area that's needed is where it says lights needed. And I'm pretty sure those two little red dots that I put there, those would be the two locations that would light them up as well. The lights are on, like I said, at 10 o'clock every night. And I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, we approved, I think you had 4 of them at that time. But we realized that there was a backside light on that turf too that was shooting over there that we never really utilized before until last year, and it's made a huge difference. But there still is that area back there, and I want to say you can fit almost 2 teams back there, correct?
Yeah, it's even a little bigger. That dead zone last year.
A little closer towards that other
A little
field.
closer to the softball down on the right. 50% wider.
And we do have temporary lights currently over at Coolidge right now. Coolidge has a set of 4 of them that will be coming in the fall, and they use them in the early spring as well without any issues. So it's worked out well. And as you all know, we are at an extreme shortage for field space because the high school team is taking a lot of the field space up until 7 or 7:30. So again, I'm always in support of getting kids out there earlier and bed sooner. So I'd be all about it.
Is this the same technology as the soccer ones behind Coolidge?
I think they're using solar because this wouldn't have.
These are diesel.
And that's what was used prior.
Yeah, we don't get solar right now, isn't due to us not wanting solar, they're just not available right now.
Yeah. I was wondering, they're hard to get.
Realistically, is there any abutter issue? It's not.
The field is already.
It's a ways either direction before you get to a house.
And the rest of that place is lit up like a Christmas tree.
Right.
YMCA has no issue.
And how would you coordinate turning them on and off?
I can work with whoever you're trying to work with, I can work with to make sure that.
I know the soccer ones have like an automatic switch that will shut them off regardless at 10 o'clock. My biggest fear, I don't like getting phone calls at 6 in the morning that the softball lights were left on. The other ones do go off in timers, so I would just be adamant about making sure that they are being shut off every night.
And whatever time, we're definitely down by 8 every day.
Yep.
Yes, that's the earlier, it's fine as well.
You can have them on until 10 o'clock.
So what are the dates?
We
and the
haven't
time?
yet, but it's gonna probably be mid-September, like mid-ish November. So.
Somebody armed with that information want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the use of portable lights in the Birch Meadow multi-purpose field with a cutoff at 10 o'clock and coordinate with the rec department on starting them up, fueling them.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay, go around. All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Okay, yep.
Aye as well, 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Sounds good. Once you get them there, I
Yeah,
gave DPW a heads up already, so they know. They just said, let them know the time frame. It'll probably be drop them off in that new parking lot area and they'll put them exactly where you want.
Yeah, I'll work with you once we have more.
Awesome. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
I think the tank fuel is enough for the season, but I'm not.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, update. John, do you have your presentation?
I do, but I don't have a way to get it onto your screen. Do you happen to have it? Maybe this gentleman here can help me.
I have it right here for you, John.
I have it on my computer because I have to read it. I won't be able to see. I'm gonna go sit where Brian was because you all won't be able to see me on screen. So I'll come stand and sit near Judy. I prefer to stand whenever I present, but I'm gonna cheat and look at my screen. And I definitely won't be able to see that from here. Well, thank you for indulging me. I'm John Fudo. I'm the executive director at the Burbank Y. I've been here before. I think I came in December or January of last year. So thanks for indulging me again. I'm going to share some updates and some stats. Just know that we haven't closed the year out yet. So we're still projecting through a little bit more than a quarter of the year. But we are about 1.5 years in and halfway through the grant. So things are going very well. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing, and we've found ways to expand this year to get more kids, especially into the swim lessons. So things are going well from our standpoint, and glad to hear some feedback. But what I'd like to do is run through what I have just for an update so I can share what's new, kind of what we've maintained and what we're looking to do for the rest of this year. And I'm glad to take any questions at the end. So I'm going to go through mine here because I can't see. And I'll let Jimmy scroll as we need to. So I mentioned at the very end of our meeting last year that we were going to be seeking permission to work with the Unified group. Hurley, he runs the Unified Sports Program for the middle and high school. She approached us last year and said it would be really good if you could help us stopgap. We don't have anything kind of in the later winter into the spring. And she asked us about doing a strength and conditioning program for the kids in the Unified program, which we said, of course, we would love to do. So with that, we sought out one of our really good trainers, Paul Dollard. Paul is, I was telling Karen this, he's a retired dentist who became a trainer about 8 years ago, and he's just phenomenal with, especially this population. He went out and did a special certification for the inclusive and adaptive programming for a sports trainer, and took for the first time with this group of kids. We had 12 kids in the program that went over 12 weeks, basically through the winter into the springtime. Mostly high school age kids. We had 4 of them actually walk for graduation, so they'll be looking to refill those seats this year. The activities included treadmills, stairmasters, rowers. Paul's really good. He sets an obstacle course every week for the kids to go through just to make it fun and kind of American Ninja Warrior type, and gives them some kind of behind the scenes balance work. So we set that up each week. So Paul was really good with that. He actually recently asked if we could run it again. I think Tara's also interested in running it through the athletic department again this year with us. So again, this is another great partnership we've been able to pull together with the Reading Public Schools and the special ed department, along with Jen Stice. And I think they just lost a couple staff members. I think unfortunately Tina Nutter, who was phenomenal, just left the district. But hopefully they'll get her replaced. But that whole department's been phenomenal. It's been a really good partnership, and we'll share more of that as it goes on. Jim, you can jump forward.
Can I ask a question before you
sure.
decide? Since you said it was partnered with Tara Hurley from the RPS, does that mean that this program would be only for students that attend RPS?
No, it's for Reading, Reading Public Schools. Yes, it's only, I'm
Right, so-
sorry, yes.
So
only Reading Public
so if you live in Reading and you're a disabled child and you're looking for a program, you wouldn't be able to do this unless you attended the Reading Public Schools?
Correct, unless you're in the Reading Public School system, that is correct.
Okay.
So Swim Buddies is our very, very good swim program that we set up last year for the first time. This year, we've set up 17 sessions. So we've got 17 set up for the year. So we have 32 total over the last 2 years. We ran 15 completely in 2024. We have 63 participants and an overall number of 112 that we've serviced to this date. That will grow by the end of the year. We still have, I think, 5 sessions to fill before the end of the year. That closes. Another program that we tried to really give Reading residents first crack at, where 83% of the kids that participate in that program are Reading based. And obviously the other different 17% are from out of town. Our high school volunteers were down this year. We've gone in a little bit of a different direction. I'll explain that a little bit. We were going with one-on-one volunteers. We ran into issues with consistency of high school kids being available week after week after week. And so we had limited it to 4 students per class with an instructor. I hired a phenomenally new aquatics director this past she started in January. She came from Malden. And as Melissa might know, Malden took the same plan we took with the ARPA program and landed the same type of funding for their YMCA. So when she joined us, she had some fabulous ideas for this program. And one of them was for the youngest kids, especially, that they would bring a one-on-one with them. And that would allow for more people to get in the pool. So we wouldn't have to limit it to 4. So now we're up to around 6 or 7 kids can participate. And we really don't have any barriers as far as how many we have to limit it to, as long as it's reasonable. We can bring as many kids. That's why you see such a large number already this year, and that will continue to grow. So that was really good news, and that seemed to work out really well. We also added, and we still have volunteers, like we still put this out to the 4 schools that we had before: Reading Memorial High School, Central Catholic, Austin Prep, and Malden Catholic were the 4 schools we were getting students from. But we found that because of the inconsistency, we would still take them and they could definitely help with the class, but it was best to have someone there with them that they knew every week. It made the program run a lot smoother, and we're definitely getting that feedback. We added a certified swim whisperer. Gus Malab joined our team back in March. So that's why we're able to offer an extra session as we're going through as well. So we're pleased to be able to do all of this and expand the program. We're using a lottery system still, but we're actually at a point now where the lottery system is filling and we still have space, which is one of the happy collateral.
Shut off, I'm on Zoom.
You're not muted, Angela.
One of the happy consequences of going to the one-on-ones that we did. So that's expanded space in the program, which has been great. Any questions on that one? So as I mentioned, Gus joined us as a swim whisperer, and he's now running the splash program for us. That's one of our flyers that we do rotate throughout the Y. This program is open to the general public. See adults of all ages participate. I think some of you remember last year we shot a video for this last year. This is one of the best things that we do. We run it every week. In the summertime, we shift it back to 12 o'clock from 11 o'clock. And the participation is not quite as good, but we have a couple of group homes that do show up with daytime students, and it works out awesome for them. It's sometimes their only time out of the day program where they come to the Burbank Y. Some come by van, some come by one-on-one. So it's really great to see. We have all ranges of disabilities, and Gus will, on the next slide, Jimmy, if you can move forward, Gus will talk a little bit about that, and I'll just share some of his. This is where I have to read on the screen because I definitely can't see that far. Gus gave me a few of the highlights that he's seen recently over the last few months. So one of the patrons, one of the particular named, he didn't give us the name, obviously, I blacked it out. It showed significant coordination recently. He's been attending the program for 2 years. His mom and his caregiver, the lifeguards and other friends in the pool cannot believe or cannot fathom that he's walking chest high in the pool. This is a kid that couldn't do it. He's about 26 years old. He could not get past his waistline. So he's now was just in the waiting area. And now he's actually submerged in the pool up to his waist. He's a tall kid. So it's and what he says, the smallest transportation is very, very inspiring. And if you have a chance, I would invite anyone to come down and check out this program. We do run it every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Gus also said he was also able to work in the pool individually during the summer with 2 other girls who are in their 30s who have reduced motor skills. They're now confident in showing increased stability and body awareness, controlling their balance while working on long lever joint movements, abduction, adduction, extensions, flexing, and hypertensions. And the third one that he wanted to call out was the equipment that we use for the program. The group classes include buoys, noodles, and swim paddles. They work on articulation, body work, motor skills, repetitive routines. They also work on swimming skills while reducing individual participant roadblocks. Working one-on-one is limited, in a group session. So sometimes he struggles with the group session because it's a large group they are, sometimes with a one-on-one, sometimes they're on their own. But he has found ways to make it work and make it more fun. So it's been a really good success. And again, if anyone has time, I'd love for you to come down and see this in action. It's pretty cool. So one of the aspects of the grant was we were going to find some social programs, and when we wrote the grant, we thought we'd be able to do maybe something weekly or even monthly with an outfit like Communitas. Unfortunately, that never came to fruition. In stepped Ed and Jim. They've helped me coordinate some projects and some trips. This was the second trip that we did. We did it in February, and it was in partnership with Reading Public Schools again. We took 35 people total, with 25 students being Celtics fans, and we took them into town to see the Celtics play the worst team in the NBA, and it was awesome. We sat up top, the kids had a ball. We learned the day after from Tina that some of the kids had never taken the train before, nor been into a Celtics game before. So it was pretty cool, and we got to see the unified kids working with the buddies, and the partnerships that they have and how they treat each other. And you can see it in the bottom. Some of those kids are typical high school students that are there giving their time and volunteering to hang out with these kids, and they gravitate, they idolize them, and it's really a great mentor program for them. So we have our next trip planned for November. We're going to see the Masters of Illusion. It's a magic show in Lowell. So Jimmy, you can go to my last slide.
The cool part with the Celtics, where we were as well too, we were sitting at the top, and right behind us, they actually had a sensory room as well. So if someone got overstimulated and needed a little break, they can go off to the side, and they had a room set aside for the kids that as well, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, are these social programs opened up to individuals with disabilities that live in Reading but don't attend the Reading Public Schools?
Yeah, so the struggle with that will always be how we'll know where they are. We do bring one person with us that's not in the Reading Public School system that we happen to know at the Y. Otherwise, it's.
What do you mean, how you know where they are?
They found us, and someone that we knew mutually that would enjoy it. That's really the only way the best way we can get this out with managing who's going to go on the trip is we utilize the teachers there, able to tell us who's sort of ready for that trip. So you just don't have someone signing up and going on the trip and the chaperones not knowing what to do.
So was the ARPA grant, was it written in there that the funds would specifically only be for RPS students though? Or was it for like people that live in Reading with disabilities?
Yeah, not for this particular program. We just headed in that direction because it was honestly the simplest way to run the program without the fear of taking someone.
The most inclusive way though, and it really cuts out a great amount of the population.
So hold on, before we go further, just to clarify, when you say Reading Public School student, are you meaning like they actually have to like be in one of the Reading Public Schools, or can be somebody who's out of
There's
district?
two ways to look at it. right,
Out of
yeah.
district.
So some people are out of district and don't go to school in Reading, but some kids aren't in the system at all. Right, so there's two.
It's a good question.
So I think that, you know, what you had asked earlier about the, for the fitness, they don't necessarily, if you had somebody who was say out of district,
But an RPS.
but an RPS student, they're still under Reading Public Schools when they're out of district.
Correct, but not all children with disabilities are OOD students. Some are just go to private schools, but still have a disability, right? Yeah.
Correct. So if you had somebody in a private school.
Yeah, that would be one. So we start with the special ed department from the superintendent's office. They have the most complete list of people or families in town that would fall into this category. They would know better than anyone. We would have a harder time finding them without the connection. Without that connection, we wouldn't even be able to probably.
Well, the OOD team chairs could do it.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. The out of district team chairs could help with that.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
But even if, say, for example, you had somebody at a private school.
Yep.
And I'm just gonna use Austin Prep since it's in town and they're in middle school.
Sure.
Could that person, even though they're not part of RPS, if they found this program, they could still access it?
Yeah, we would just want the same safeguards that if they're coming on the trip that we're as chaperones able to take. And that's the beauty of using the students in Reading is the teachers come with them and they know the students as well as anyone. So we're not putting random chaperones with random students that have never met before.
If a parent wanted to come with the child, I mean.
Absolutely.
100.
Yep, and we would.
don't necessarily have to be Reading Public School.
Correct.
But it just so happens, this is how you're marking, this is how you're identifying
This
people.
is probably the simplest way to because when we talk about marketing, we're like, all right, how do we even launch this? Like if we put it out, we have no idea what's gonna come back to anything.
That's right.
Should you put flyers up at the Y maybe?
We didn't go that route. We could, I mean, we talk about these programs and it's not something we advertise in a brochure or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking,
Yeah, no.
my
I
thoughts are,
think
it's just not an arm of the RPS, right? And not everybody goes to the Reading Public Schools.
Right.
So I just don't want it to cut off a whole group of the population.
Yeah.
And it too, so.
And the question would be, and we do that with splash, we put up the splash signs all over the Y.
Right.
And that's because it's kind of an all comers and we're able to more easily do that where we're going off site and we're going with chaperones with young kids in some cases or younger kids in some cases. It's a little bit more of a slippery slope. I would have no issue with that. We could definitely.
And we can send out email blasts as well too, you know, and then it's there's a little venting, have someone come and meet the child, meet the parents, what are their needs, is good fit. And
Yeah.
Yeah, we do intake forms for swim buddies for the same purpose. Like we want to know like what their challenge about and everything. And sometimes it's something as simple as, you know, sometimes they get a little sensitive to extra sound or music. It's those little tidbits that it's important for us to know.
How are you, I've seen the swim buddy emails come, but I've never seen the email come for that. So what system are you using to get out apply for the swim buddy lottery? And could you use that same system for hey, we've got this great social program?
Yeah, we totally could do that. Right now, we send the trip. We actually work on the trip together with the Reading Public Schools. They help us decide what would be good, what the kids would like, what they might not like. That's what we did for this one. We polled them and said, you want to go to a Red Sox game? You want to go to, I think we gave them Blue Man Group and we gave them the Masters of Illusion. The teachers came back and said, we think this one would be the best one.
It's great to brainstorm, but then if you could also send out I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but it's like stopping at the Reading Public Schools and not like offering it to like other kids in town too that could use it just as much. It's just sad to leave them off out of it.
I think that's why we have these up as well, you know, you got another side, you know, a connection this way and as a parent.
And I would take that. If you want to reach out to me, I'll happily give you my card. If you have, or Melissa, it seems like you know that other group that we would need to talk to, that would be helpful.
I'm surprised that Jen Stiles didn't
And
say.
maybe she did, and I'm just presuming that we were just working with our own students. She could have.
Superintendents have all the evidence for people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even, or how about advertising on the rec department? I mean, on the rec website, I think if I was a parent in town and I was looking for something, I'd go right to the rec department website and that's where I would look first.
Yeah.
John, just talking about like, you know, I know you still, that's the last slide. When you were talking about like, there was a real thought about, working with Communitas, but that didn't quite actually pan out. Can you just elaborate a little bit more as to what the barriers were with Communitas and how that didn't work out?
Yeah, it was really that they just didn't have the staffing for it. We went back to them. In fact, they were part of the conversation when we started this, and we said, if we allocate money to you, would you take this? And then when it came to say, okay, here's what we have for funding, would you like to spend it? They said, you know, we don't have the bandwidth to staff. And that's when we kind of started thinking, what do we do?
Yeah.
And we thought about teen nights, we thought about these different opportunities, and what we really came up with was the field trips would be, I mean, they do cost a lot of money, and they cost $3,000 to $4,000 every time we run them.
Yeah.
But they're well run and the kids really enjoy it. And what we found is the teachers actually have used this as a very good way to get the kids to listen a little bit more in class. If you really want to go on this trip, this is coming up in the fall. It turns into a really nice carrot for the students as well. So the teachers have, right or wrong, used this as a little bit of a carrot for them to take part in the program.
Thank you. You guys have done awesome work. I mean, this is just amazing.
We're very proud of it too. I can't tell you.
I definitely want to come down on a Tuesday or Thursday
Please
to
do.
come watch those
Yeah.
classes. So thank you. I know that, you know, getting this money is a huge responsibility and tax for your staff, and it's a lot of work. I work in a nonprofit and we have some ARPA funds that we're trying to spend, and I know how difficult it can be sometimes.
Yeah.
To do it responsibly and meet the needs of the people that it's intended for. So I thank you and your staff for the dedication that you guys have put towards that. You know, one of the things when we worked on this proposal and pitched it to I forget the name of the committee that we
Yeah, what's
mentioned
that?
too, the ARPA committee.
Yeah.
Was that, some of this funding would be really kind of like some seed money to really think about like just expanding services for this population. And I really I really think that this committee should really think about, all the people that this program has touched and that.
Yeah.
I know I've talked to Jenna about, I've talked to Jim about this in the past, but I think as a committee, we really need to start considering about putting some funds towards a therapeutic recreation specialist, someone who can look at our programs
Yeah.
to make them more inclusive and to build some programs that there's a need. And what happens when this ARPA funding is done and what's gonna happen with these programs?
Right.
So, I don't know, I just want to put that out there. I know there's a lot of people looking for funding for different things. I think this is something that's really important. It's potentially that we could partner even with another town to have a therapeutic recreation specialist. I think one of the challenges for you guys, and you could probably, I think you just nailed it with Communitas and why it's so challenging is because of staffing.
Yes.
And so having our own staff who's trained to know how to implement some of these types of programs, I think would be key.
Yeah, and implementation is key, but also adaptability. We're looking at a lot of our own programs right now, trying to figure out how can we make it adaptive versus it doesn't have to just be adaptive programming. It can be like our summer camp is adaptive. We will take students with special needs in those programs with the same thing with the intake and just the conversation with the parent to make sure that the child can sustain the program. That's the key. So I think you're right. There's definitely, and we're looking at more adaptive opportunities as well, but trying to infiltrate them into or integrate them into just mainstream programming is perfectly fine and what should happen. And that's kind of what I think the unified program tries to do as well, is to meld the two programs together. So all the kids feel the same and they have the same opportunity.
Yeah, and I just want to also just express, it's not just about kids. It's adults with disabilities and seniors with disabilities.
Yeah.
So it's all ages on how to make
Yeah.
programming more inclusive.
Yeah.
So it's not something that just benefits children.
Yeah.
It benefits all ages of people who might need some adaptive.
I gotta tell you, I just did a walkthrough. I'm glad you said that. I did a walkthrough 2 days ago. I'm sorry, last Thursday with a gentleman that runs a facility in Lexington. It's for TBI, traumatic brain injuries. And I had invited him out. We went to visit his facility and I invited him out to look at ours to say, what do we need to do to make these what equipment do we need? Do we have enough walking space? Do we have accessibility, elevators? Do we have everything that we need? And we're looking at harnesses over treadmills to try to bring in not only brain, but folks with spinal issues. So we're trying, it's a huge undertaking to do it, but it's a huge population.
Yeah, it is.
If you start looking around, it's huge, so.
And Melissa, thank you. Great comments, and I'll echo them. I don't want to repeat what you said, but I also have great appreciation for all the work that you guys have done. Also recognizing that you did not get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that you've made. It was 85, 90? $92,000, right?
Yeah, it goes.
So $92,000 over the course of 3 years can't develop programming for everybody all the time and handle the entire population. To your point, Melissa, there's a much bigger population out there. But I think for what you have and what you have done and starting these programs and like in some cases innovating and doing new things, I think you've done a tremendous job. So I appreciate it. So thank you.
And it gets it on the map too. And it gets people around this table talking about it and people around other tables talking about it. And I think that's what was sorely missing when we went after it, is people weren't talking about it because a lot of the adaptive programming had disappeared during the pandemic and was very, very slow to come back. So these are some of the first to come back. And I am very proud. I'm super connected to all the work that we do. I actually run all of the swim buddies out of my office. So all the intakes that come through me. So I see all of them. I get all the thank you notes too, which is awesome. And I get all the grumpy people. So I handle everyone. there's not a lot of grumpy people, but people are very, very thankful after they've had the opportunity, especially because the program's free and some kids have got to do it sometimes even 3 times now. So it's pretty awesome.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Thanks for coming in, and I'll see you again in 6 months.
Yes. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate seeing all of you.
Be in touch soon.
Thank you.
I know we touched on it earlier, so I'll just open it up for any additional discussion. Burbank funds, did anybody have any additional thoughts? Discussion on it?
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone.
I do. When Mr. McFadden had come in last month, he had said that Nelson Burbank's original intent was to send it back to recreation for recreational use. He had also said that there was a hope that it would go for adaptive programming. And I think that I just want to advocate again, that there's such a great need for that. Like I was just on, I'm sure all parents recently were on the Reading Rec website looking for programming for their kids. And there's so many great programs. You just scroll down to see all the programs. And there's one in the top right corner, there's one. And it's great that we have the special skates program. I don't know any other town that has a skating program, so that's great. But it's not for all kids because it's too cold and it requires a lot of equipment and sometimes the sensory needs. Also, it's $150, which is kind of a lot of money to spend when your kid goes, I don't want to put that ice skate on, you know? So just to have a second one in there, like any second one in there, just to kind of balance it out a little bit more, would be amazing. So I just wanted to put a plug for
Yeah,
Really getting
and I think we all kind of agreed in theory that and to your point, like the spirit of what Nelson Burbank wanted was to have extra money from the Burbank Ice Authority go towards helping recreation in general, like big general, in Reading. So if we can figure out a way to honor that, it would be awesome. I understand kind of what Angela was saying earlier about there being, you know, what's the mechanism in order to do that? Are there ways to kind of like to dedicate it? I think it'd be awesome. I know we had subsequent conversations after last meeting. I know Jim and I talked about kind of the same thing, having special education, having adaptive programming, would be a huge beneficiary of like the additional funds. But you know, like we mentioned, right now it's, you know, we need kind of, I think, select board and maybe Carlo can comment on it, to kind of like hopefully advocate for and or look at what is the mechanism to do that, if there is one, or if there's another way. So I think that's where we're at right now.
So we voted on that last time, but then how does, and I'm the rookie in the room, how does what we voted on get to the select board? Like, how do they know it? Do we just need Carlo to be like watching all of our meetings so he knows?
Yeah, so I mean, so Carlo's the liaison, right? So his responsibility as other select board members to other committees are to report back to the to the select board. So if we say, you know, we would here's something we voted on, here's something we'd like to that, then it's onto Carlo, or if it's another committee and it's Melissa, or if it's Karen or whoever, they bring it to that and they suggest an agenda item for a future select board meeting. So that's kind of where it was. And I haven't watched it. Where was I? I was in Connecticut College, so it was not at all paying attention to select board this week. So I didn't see what the liaison reports were, but I will at some point.
And that would be similar for the pickleball that was discussed.
Exactly. Yeah. Carl, go ahead.
I don't have the lease memorized, but I'm assuming it'd be an amendment to the lease.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's language in there specifically that monies go to the general fund or whatever fund, but that's I don't want to say a simple fix, but that's a board discussion.
Yep.
To amend the lease, to dedicate the funds to recreation as a whole activities. So that's something I will read the lease again. I read it for another reason, but I'll go over it again and then, you know, have town council comment if needed. If it's in there specifically, then we just can amend it. If it's not in there at all, then I don't know what we do.
for there to be.
I think, one thing that we found out last fall with Fidel was that the money from Burbank goes into a special fund.
Yeah.
It's a fund that's separate from all the other funds. And it gets voted on by town meeting when it gets spent.
Okay. I'll look into it. Yeah, I'll look into it. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Sounds right.
I think if you decided that that money should be earmarked for adaptive programming, you'd be hard pressed to find someone that's gonna object to that.
Right.
I think I guarantee you that would get rousing support, and that's just my 2 cents on that.
Finding out if we can do that, like we
Right,
discussed
right.
earlier, going to the boards and FinCom and.
Oh, of course. Eventually this has to go, it has to go to town meeting. So
Who's gonna say no to
I think we were just kind of like that first rung to like elevate it up and then eventually, yeah. Yep, yeah, exactly. No, but always ask those questions. We've all been. So thank you for asking it. Any other questions or updates or discussion on that? Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to the dream team. Tell us what's happening in Reading Rec.
I did some photos again this
All right.
time. So we're gonna share screen.
Picture.
I'm getting good, I'm getting quick.
That's by next month.
Yeah.
Practice in the office.
I forget every week. I'm older than he is.
All right, so that's what we just talked about, the lights. All right, Bancroft tennis courts. I know we were talking about getting these done and we did go out to bid. The bid closed on August 15th and we received 2, I think, very good bids. This is for the entire Bancroft tennis courts, the 6 courts we have down there. As well as a hit wall, and we had Vermont recreational surfacing and fencing coming in at $74,819. Sport Tech was about $5,000 higher at $79,400. And both of these companies are planning on, or they said they could get it done in the fall, but this is very weather related. They need about a 2 to 3 week window in order for everything to set up and cure correctly. So right now, the town just sent out the intent to award the bid and the contract. They sent that out on 8/22, so we're waiting for the certificate of insurance to come in and a payment bond as well, with the hopes of starting this fall. Like I said, weather permitting, if it didn't happen this fall, then we would have to push it to the following fall. We can't interrupt the spring tennis season and the summer tennis season as well. And both of these folks knew that as well when they did go out to the bid. So we're waiting for all the paperwork to come in. Hope to have it in the next week or 2. And then it's going to be updating the tennis community as well as the neighbors that there's going to be some work done. And Vermont Recreational Service, they were the last ones to do it. So they know the courts pretty well. We had allocated $100,000. So it came well under. So there will be approximately, call it $25,000 that could be utilized for another project this year.
Nice.
So that is good news.
How long will it take, Jim, approximately?
So they said about 2 to 3 weeks. So ideally, I would love it to happen mid-October. You get into November, it gets a little cold.
Is Vermont the award contractor or?
What's that, Vermont? They won the bid, yeah. Yep.
They built the original courts too.
Got it.
And they've done a good job from what I recall the first go round where they did it, so. And I know the engineering department knows them pretty well too, and have good relationships, and they do a lot of tennis courts, and we do have all their references as well, which I will still be calling as well too. So it's been a busy month. August is get ready for the kids to get back to school. A lot of our playgrounds were in need of some wood chips to go on the spots where kids typically fall. So myself and Ed, we had rakes in our hand. We did have help with DPW. This is the before picture. This is the upper lot over at Wood End. I think it was last, we had some wood chips. I think Jenna did it about 3 years ago. They wash out, kids wear and tear certain areas. So this was one we just did this past week. This is just the before. This is the mulch. We had a total of 45 cubic yards of mulch get dropped off. We worked with DPW. And it's funny, that one scoop right there would have been $700 for them to ship on their trucks. I reached out to DPW. They had some trucks. They had some guys available. They took 5 trips down to Mass Mulch in Andover, had this all dropped off within 4 hours, saving us $700 a truckload. So it's nice to have that relationship with them to save us some money. 700 truckload for 9 cubic yards. And then also another savings too. Someone at DPW knew and had done some work with mass mulch before on other projects. And when I called, I got $54 per cubic yard, and that number shrunk to 38 when DPW said we're gonna come pick it up. So, and the Birch Meadow playground that you're gonna see coming up here, just on that one playground alone, we use 75 cubic yards and we saved $4,800. So this is the after product. It makes a huge difference. And it's got enough mulch where it is safe. You need, I think it's 6 inches of mulch underneath the fall areas for padding. So this here was 45. Swings are all covered up, and this was done. Me and Ed were out there for half a day. We got about half of it done. DPW came on Friday and they had some Bobcats come out and they took care of the rest of it. Birch Meadow, this was a big one. I didn't get a before picture, but you can see that dirt that was in there. I don't know if anyone's been to Birch Meadow. If it rains out, it was complete mud. I'm not sure the last time this was done. But this one here took 75 cubic yards. I think it was a total of 9 truckloads that were dropped off. Over there, here's DPW and their Bobcat. There's Ed trying to hide from the picture in the background. We had blisters on our hand. And this is the end result.
Nice.
I mean, that looks like a brand new playground right now too. And while we were there, I think they have a special ed program that happens over at Birch Meadow, I want to say from 9 to 12. And the teachers were so thankful they came out. The kids, we let them run around in the mulch, have fun. They were actually helping us spreading it by climbing on these giant piles. The kids were so excited. And then a lot of teachers started talking to me, which I'm going to get to in this report as well too. Just another shot as well. We're going to Barrows Elementary School. This has the rubber mulch here. There was a number of areas that had spots, like especially under the monkey bars and where kids hang upside down and fall, that were lacking some mulch. So myself and Ed found the border areas. We raked them out. We probably moved, I'm going to say 85 recycle bins worth of mulch and pulled them over to these spots that needed them. I don't want to overly invest in rubber mulch because it's getting to the, sorry, I'll go back one. It's getting to the point where the mulch has been there for so long that it's starting to break down a little bit. When it gets wet, it starts to come off on whether it's clothing, on hands. When we were doing the mulch over at Birch Meadow, a number of the teachers that work there work over at Joshua Eaton, and they're like, can you please do this over here? Can you do it over here? We send kids home, their hands are covered in black, they're picking it up. We see dogs coming there, sometimes eating it when kids spill on it. So I mentioned it to DPW. My plan is to hopefully rid all the playgrounds of rubber mulch in the next 2 years or so. I do have a game plan. DPW and the highway department, they have a vac truck that sucks up like some of the sewer lining and stuff like that. So they would come in, they would suck up all this rubber mulch. We'd have to pay for a dumpster to remove it. But my goal is to possibly start doing like Memorial Park. And if you've been to these parks, if you see where this park is, if you walk 150 yards away, you will find rubber mulch that is there. It gets extremely hot as well too. And you saw the wood mulch, it's a lot cheaper, and I just think it looks a lot better when it flows out. Like Joshua Eaton's probably one of the worst schools. It's going down that hill right now.
That hill, everything just.
It's going on
onto the field.
The hot top areas. So we're slowly going to start seeing this go away. And then, like I said, with the mulch pricing we get to, as long as we maintain it, we don't need to get, almost 100 yards of mulch every year. If we're doing it every 3 or 4 years, you're dropping 1 truckload, moving it around in low spots as well too. DPW has been out, and what they have this machine, I call it a fluffing machine, where they actually turn it over. They go to the parks and they'll get the mulch that's kind of sitting below that's been getting wet. They'll turn that over, bring it to the top, and it does make the life of the mulch last long. You'll be seeing a lot of that coming. I think people will be very happy to see it kind of go away. I worked with all the youth organizations and DPW to get rid of old equipment. I don't know if you've been at some of the fields, there's always nets that are just put everywhere. There's a lot of lacrosse nets that get put everywhere. Soccer nets get broken. They find a cemetery in the woods sometimes, and leaves and vines start growing all over them. So I reached out to all the youth organizations, and they put together any broken equipment they had, anything, all this stuff. This is probably just half of what we removed. There's a lot of these lock boxes that are around town that aren't even being used. And those just scare me. If God forbid, walk on it, a kid gets in there, can't get out of there as well. So a lot of the fields, you're not going to see lacrosse nets all along the grass, and DPW, they struggle as well too. So they have to move them every single time they go out there and cut them. So lacrosse put away all their nets because they're not using them as much in the summer. So coming up with plans to make things look better in town. Coolidge looks wonderful right now. It's just 2 soccer nets out there, which I've never seen it like that before. So DPW was huge. I put in C-clip fixes. Their crew came out, got rid of it, put it in the scrap metal yard and got that out. Coolidge parking lot. I don't know if anyone's been to Coolidge parking lot lately. DPW has fence money they get allocated each year. And the reason this is happening, I don't know if anyone recalls this past spring, there was an event at Coolidge Middle School where there wasn't any parking and folks decided to make their own parking. So these are just kind of blockades to stop. There's a lot of stuff there too that, it will prevent cars from going in. We have our summer camps there as well, so it'll prevent them from going there, at least stop them. But it's running all the way down there and this is the reason why. This was spring and it became its own little parking lot for an event that was through the facilities department in the school. It wasn't one of our events, so I talked to them. I mentioned to DPW. So that's the reason you'll see them down there as well, which will be nice. Nobody will drive on the field. I think it's happened a lot in the past, so it's just another fail safe for us. Pickleball updates. I know we kind of did talk about that. We can talk about it again if you want. I know we all want pickleball courts. It's just figuring out the right way of action to get it done sooner than later. I think there are some roadblocks, but I think that's up to us to figure out if we can utilize the land that I think we all agree would be a great spot for these pickleball courts. And I don't know if we can rely on Carlo to get it moving along, or if Carlo has any updates on how to do this. I think we got to talk to some folks. I'm not sure where it stands, if it's going to be an agenda item anytime soon.
Yeah, if Eric, can I speak for a few minutes on this?
Go ahead.
So we had a very extensive recalc update last week. And we don't meet again until the 10th because the next week's an election, so our meeting moved. So there is a piece of land carved out for up to 8 pickleball courts at Simon's Way, which this body and everyone else in town agreed that's where pickleball is going to go. Now we have a spot carved out. We knew it was going to go over there somewhere, and now there's a spot carved out. And I have not got a direct answer if the soil is being tested. Because I've spoken to Michael, I've spoken to other people, and I forget if all the soil's getting tested on the Zani land or just that portion, so they can start. But our PPA, as you know, has a lot of money. It has to go to town meeting, obviously, to advocate for more money. But as a board, I plan to put on the agenda to move forward. We would love, I know the rec committee and its the select board and its members would like the support of the rec department and the recreation committee. Whether that needs a vote or not, it is not up to me, that's up to you guys. Because, town meeting will want to hear that probably, and so will our board. So there is funds already waiting to be allocated from our PPA. I think the town will step up and do something. And then with an exact location, our PPA will get to raise more money with the location picked. And there's some approximate costs out there, nothing, down to the penny, but several $100,000. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. So we have a location, we have some funds. When I say we, I'm saying our PPA has the funds, the town has the location kind of sorted out. And I guess the potential pushback will be, well, the senior center location hasn't even been picked yet, even though that's one of the sites. But we know pickleball is going over there. And we know a senior center, active living center is going to take years just to break ground. So I plan to take it up. I would love this body support, whatever that is, coming from Jim directly, coming from a vote, whatever it is. So
it's something where if it was on the agenda, we could come and chat and do a presentation, whether.
Yeah, I think because we glossed over the pickleball portion of that land. I thought it was gonna be a bigger part of the update, but it wasn't. And that was kind of a thing waiting for this meeting to put it on the agenda again.
They weren't opposed to it, right? Did I see that on Monday? I think he had commented that they weren't.
No one's opposed to it. It's just a matter of, we gotta pull the trigger. If we wait until a location is picked, and if it's that, say it's not that, say Oakland Road's picked. Well, we're just gonna sit on our hands and make pretend pickleball is gonna happen someday. So again, everybody wants to move this forward in town, especially the pickleball people, the 60+ people. So I want to move it forward for a lot of reasons, not because I'm dressed like this, but you know, I got into pickleball 2 years ago. Michael was a big part of it, and that's the way it is. And I happen to be on the board. I don't teach lessons in town. I have my courts in Woburn, so there's no conflicts and all that stuff. I'm just a player. And I really play in Reading now.
So how do we get there? I think that's our biggest.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, I had laid out some things here to talk to you about afterwards, but I can answer the questions or ask the questions here first. You mentioned kind of like the piece getting carved out. So that was my biggest question, was how does that piece of property get carved out? Who has the authority to kind of like make that call?
Pretty sure the board does.
Right, so, and that's what I mean, like, it's not us, right? So like, I think I can speak for myself as just a sole member of Recreation Committee. Like, if the board says we're carving out this piece of land, which realistically can't be used to build something, right? In terms of a building. Right? And, you know, we're ordering soil testing. And here's and then the next step is to kind of like create a plan to eventually go to town meeting. That's enough specificity, I think, for kind of the rec committee to kind of say, like, given those criteria, like, we'll advocate for it. We can be part of the presentation. We can kind of like, you know, join forces with whoever needs to, so that it's kind of a cross-departmental or cross-board kind of like collaboration going in front of town meeting, as opposed to just like one person or one group. So I just think as long as we have that specificity, it's easier than saying, like, if we took a vote right now, we don't know what we'd be voting on. We'd be voting on, theoretically, go make courts in Simon's Way with no real, like, you know, no real plan behind it, other than what we think and hope we want to happen. So that's what I would hope, that whenever that comes up from the select board, we get some of that specificity, and then we can kind of throw what weight we have, right? I mean, it's all theoretical behind it.
I mean,
I just have one question. So the land that's being carved out, that land is being tested? Isn't that a big question?
I don't,
The land is,
I've heard mixed things. I'll find out from that.
like, that's a block for me. We need to know how.
So that's my.
So, I mean, I can address some of that, because Recal recommended Simon's Way. And one of the things that's gonna have to happen for Recalc and or pickleball is you have to test that land to find out what's there.
Yep.
Once you test it, you have to do something. One of the easiest things to do to a land that is contaminated with some things is to pave it and put a parking lot or pickleball courts. That's sort of the lowest level fruit of remediation.
The parking lot. That's the only thing you can do.
That's the only thing you're allowed to do.
So putting in a building is actually a little bit more, and that's one of the things that the Permanent Building Committee is going to try and address. So, but Recalc and the Center for Active Living is separate from pickleball.
Yeah.
They didn't include it in their proposal, and it's really separate. And it's two locations. The testing should happen ASAP, and I think they haven't hired the guy yet, right? The
PBC doing it?
Are you talking about the soil testing?
Yes.
No, nothing has been decided on yet.
Okay.
So that's something that happened. But I mean, the key on all of this really is that, you know, RPPA can develop all the plans it wants, but until we actually have a site or anything, we can't do anything. It's just.
Well, and I would actually advocate, you guys, certainly RPPA can have suggestions and ideas, but ultimately it's the town that should be driving. Once we have the go ahead, you know, and the town should be driving the, you know, going out to a bid, looking at the resources, how much is, you know, what are the different costs? And then and then collaborating with you guys and saying, you know, hey, this is what the cost would be. How much of your available funding will you put forward towards?
The one thing that I think that, you know, sort of, I view our real mission and goal at this point is to convince the town and this committee and FinCom and anybody else who's willing to listen, that this should happen sooner rather than later, because there's real demand.
So I think one of the things that we're all sort of circling is like the actual function of getting that question on the town meeting warrant. So like not only getting select board to do the sort of steps they need to do to sort of approve putting it there, but also what the warrant piece is gonna look like.
Yeah.
Like what does that language look like? Theoretically, that's gonna come from select board. It would probably be helpful if it was written by someone else to be given to them and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And we've got X, Y, and Z, which is the stuff you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe the step forward in the immediate term is to write that out, get that written in front of, because it sounds like everybody's on the same page. We just need to, you know, to Carlos' point, just go, like make this happen. And to do that, there needs to be language.
And have it in a kind of like a rough draft form so that as we hear from select board, you can make the modifications before we start, before we're voting on anything and submitting it back to the select board.
Exactly. Yeah. Get the writing in place to be edited and then submit it around so everybody says yay, and then it's, you know, submitted as part of the warrant, because otherwise, to your point, like we're not going to get this by 2025. It's not going to and it's desperately needed. So I think the writing it out is, in my mind, just from a legal perspective and timing perspective, seems to be the next step.
And you know that I don't know that much about the inclusive community, but there are some inclusive players that come, and that could be expanded as a role if we had courts right now.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome.
We can't even.
That.
Yeah, that would be.
And an accessible way to get to the courts. Not accessible now.
Right, sort of a challenge, but that's down the road.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
even though Recalc didn't use it in their presentation as the holistic cost estimate, Michael, it was a breakout cost. And Recalc really did, to my knowledge, were advocating for pickleball or some type of outdoor recreation opportunities for that population, in addition to the walking trail that would go around the building. So that was kind of a big reason why they chose Simon's Way, was because of the opportunity for perhaps pickleball or the walking trail and things like that. So I think it did come up a lot in the conversations with Recalc.
It certainly did. It was a big plus for Simon's Way.
Anything else, Jim, Ed?
Not take up too much for you guys' time, but no, I mean, the summer wrapped up. I thought everything went really well with our programming, vacation, everything. I was really pleased with my first summer of planning it and kind of seeing it all come together. And then, I kind of touched on our fall programs went up on August 15th. Really happy with the offerings that we have there. I think it's well-rounded, and I expanded on credits for adult offerings too. So we have some like nutrition cooking classes. We have there's an intro to salsa dancing program, which I think is great. It's like out of town, but I think it's an opportunity that I was like looking for. So it's there. And then a meditation series. But yeah, and then we got the downtown trick or treat coming. So we started process planning for that. I've reached out to businesses, started getting seeing who's participating again this year. That's always a fun event. So just a little bit.
Awesome.
Ed, question, downtown trick or treat.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this last year about how we can make that more inclusive. Like maybe even having like the first half an hour, 45 minutes more like, I guess, I don't know, sensory friendly or a little bit, like something a little bit quieter. Can we think about doing something like that?
Yeah, so last year was my first time experiencing, and yes, like the streets get it's very busy down there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, very happy to talk more about how that could be implemented and.
Do you think like 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Like a 30-minute prior? I mean,
I don't know, I have to think about it, but something where, you know.
it gets crowded. It really gets crowded, especially in
It can get very stimulating, overwhelming. Kids can get scared with different types of costumes. I don't know if 30 minutes is enough time, might not be, but.
Are you thinking like having only disabled children come at first? With their siblings too, so the parents don't have to come.
Yeah, like for that first half an hour, 45 minutes or so.
That's
The hard part is that everyone comes early.
Right.
Regardless of the time you tell them.
Yeah.
You almost have to have a different day.
I don't know if you could, that's a better idea.
It's a lot for the
It's a lot for the business.
That's a lot,
Yeah.
yes.
yeah.
Great.
We can talk and then how to promote it. I'd love to hear the language and stuff.
But implementing it would be hard. Because how do you tell an adorable 5-year-old, it's not your turn yet?
I mean, could it, as far as maybe, town hall, like I want to let them do it like town hall, you come in a half an hour, we let all our staff know that, a half hour earlier, they're gonna be coming in. The businesses might get tricky. I get nervous because we do shut down roads.
Yeah.
We don't want to shut them down too early and have businesses. Most businesses are great, but there are some that do get a little bit upset on those days. So I'd be nervous about shutting down streets any earlier than what we've done. But I mean, somewhere like town hall and the town common, maybe they can get out there a little bit prior. I think that would work. I know our staff in town hall would be absolutely fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great idea.
Okay.
Okay. I think that is it.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, you can just go around. Anybody opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.